Good evening, everyone. My name is Tom McCann. I'm the Chair of the Joint Public Protection Committee, and I would like to welcome everyone to the meeting. I'd particularly like to welcome our Wokingham colleagues. Welcome back. It's nice to see you, and please feel free to jump in anytime you feel like it. It's really nice to have you back. I'd also like to remind members that we're live streaming on YouTube. And for any of the members of the public who want to follow the proceedings. We have various members from Bracknell, Wokingham, and we may have some from others from West Berkshire. So welcome to all those members with us this evening. And we also have a number of officers from Bracknell, Wokingham, Bracknell, West Berkshire. We don't have any officers from Wokingham unless they're online, do we? Okay, all right, that's not a problem. Thank you. Just to remind members again that if you're attending the meetings, it's only members in the chamber who can actually vote, and unfortunately those watching online aren't allowed to vote. If you'd like to speak, I'd like to remind members to switch on and off their microphones at the beginning and end of all conversations. And at that point, I'd like to go to agenda item 1 and ask, do we have any apologies?
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, one apology received from Councillor Stephen O'Regan. Councillor Paul Bidwell is due to attend as his substitute online. As I think there are other councillors yet to join us from West Berkshire and Wokingham, so hopefully they will do so soon.
Thank you for that one. And moving on to approving the minutes, item 2, pages 3 to 8 on your agendas. I assume members have read the minutes, and if there's no items that need any clarification or amendment, I'd like to propose that we accept those. Do I have a seconder? Well, well done and well exercised. That right? Can I have a show of hands of all? Oh, sorry, it's no you do that stuff, don't you? No, that's okay. Thank you. Okay. Moving on to item 3 on the agenda. Again, this is to note, and that's pages 9 through to 10. I had a quick look and confirmed with the officers that the item is actually as expressed in the agenda, and there is no actions suggested by members for the forthcoming meetings running through to next year. But I do invite members who wish to have something on the forward plan to please feel free to bring forward those suggestions. They will be welcomed, and we will do the best we can to facilitate those suggestions and zip them into our diary for next year where appropriate. So that's really an item to note, unless members have any questions on that particular item. Okay. If you just give me a second while I get to my next pages. Item 4, declarations of interest.
None have been received in advance. Are there any from the floor? No, thank you.
Thank you very much for that. It looks like it's going to be quite a swift agenda for this evening. And item number 5. I note there is no public questions this time, but can you just confirm for members if there is anything being received?
No questions received either on general business or on the agenda items.
Just for clarification, and now Wokingham is fully membered, on the committee, and we can expect and allowed questions from residents of Wokingham to come forward should they wish to. Is that correct?
Indeed, correct. Yes, Chairman.
Thank you. So, again, the invitation's there if you need it. Moving swiftly on to the forward plan, pages 15 to 17. Do any members have any comments or things they'd like to raise on this item 6? Fantastic. I'll just give you a second should you wish to pull up your agenda digitally. Okay. At our last meeting, I asked that we insert for the June meeting budget information, so we could have some input on that process. That may be a little bit ahead of how most councils work, but bearing in mind we have 3 organisations, 3 local authorities to coordinate, we felt that as long as we give as much of a lead in as we possibly could to give your authorities and your senior teams time to bring anything forward that they felt was needed, and especially Wokingham, who have been out of the loop for a little bit, it was deemed a bit more time should you need it. So that's probably the only input that we have had at this far. Is there any comments from the officers? Thank you.
So, Chairman, we'll hear later this evening that unfortunately we haven't received the air quality report back from DEFRA for Bracknell as yet. So we'll need to add that to the forward plan for the March meeting as well.
Are members happy that we do that and we bring that forward? It is unfortunate, but timings is just sometimes these things happen in meetings. With that item, I believe it's to note. Okay, with that, we shall move on to item number 7, which I believe Sean will introduce, and members do feel free to ask any questions or raise any points. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. So when we were sat here in the sun back in June, officers were given an instruction by the committee to take forward the recommendations of the peer review, which was to set up a new agreement or to get in place basically the agreement for a new agreement with the authorities, to work with the authorities, and obviously that included bringing Wokingham colleagues back on to the committee, and welcome. Thank you. So we went away and we've done that, and I'm pleased to say that basically the matters were considered by all 3 executive bodies, so the 2 executives, Wokingham and West Berkshire, and the Cabinet at Bracknell Forest Council, and then by full council in the three authorities. And that includes basically the update to the constitution of West Berkshire as a host authority, which basically brings Wokingham back onto the committee basically through the constitutional changes. So that's really where we're at. So where we're at now basically is that we are working with the legal teams across the authorities, and we're looking to pull together an agreement as soon as possible, basically to finalise the arrangements, which will take us through to 31st of March 2029, which is, so we very much hope to have that in place basically very, very early into 2026. The basis of that agreement will be the 2017 agreement, but there were some lessons that we learned as we moved into the 2022 agreement with Wokingham, and we will effectively be bringing the best of both of those. But the delegations are in place basically for officers to sign off that agreement in due course. The updated terms of reference are appended at Appendix A. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Do we have any questions, members? Yes, Lou.
Is this on? I don't have a question. I just wanted to, if it's okay, I just wanted to say thank you for everybody's work involved in putting it through the 3 councils and allowing us to now speak and vote at meetings. We're delighted to be full members of the committee again. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your kind comments. If we have no other questions, then again, this is a to note item. And at that point, I would suggest that we move on then to item number 8. And again, Sean will be introducing this one.
Thank you, Chairman. So I may, with your indulgence, invite a couple of colleagues in to give a bit more detail, if that's okay. So George Lawrence and Rosalind Gator are online, and Moira is in the room. And Moira, if you've got any questions around the performance data. So just if I could just summarise the overarching picture. So I think, as I've said at the previous meetings, this has been a challenging year from a budget point of view. For the service, but I'm very pleased to report to the committee that we're expecting at the end of the year basically to come in on budget, and after basically, but that has meant holding open a number of posts for periods of time, varying periods of time. We have put the resource that we have had into the priority areas, so additional resource has been put into getting the food programme done. And we're very hopeful, Rosalind will address that point, but we're hopeful that basically the vast majority, if not all of that, will be done by the end of the year. Just to say also on the financial side, there was a proposal around a budget that came out of the October meeting. Those figures have now been fed back to the authorities, and at the moment we're hopeful that basically the figures that we fed back will form the basis of the base budget for 2026-27. The proposed fees and charges for West Berkshire and for Bracknell Forest were also agreed at the last meeting, and they have now been consulted on. The statutory elements of those have been consulted on in both areas. And there's a little bit of detail there in the report. There was an objection, I think, in Bracknell, basically. So these are the fees that relate to taxi and private hire vehicles and operators. And there were no objections, I believe, in West Berkshire. Obviously, the Bracknell matter will be debated by the licensing committee in due course before any recommendation is made to council. Just in terms of staffing issues, we have had some success in terms of recruitment. So we've recruited a senior environmental health officer. We've also recruited a trading standards enforcement officer. In fact, we've recruited 2 in the last few months. And they're on top of the 2 the 2 apprentice trading standards officers that we recruited based on the grant funding we're able to get from the Department of Health. We've also managed to basically recruit within the licensing team, and we've just at the moment got 1 vacancy in that team, but we do have very solid arrangements in place to cover off that vacancy on a temporary basis with an acting up arrangement and some back cover. 6.2, there are a number of posts, as you can see, that are currently out to recruitment. And then there are a number of posts basically which are vacant at 6.3 basically, but will be going out. Certainly 2 of those will be going out to recruitment, hopefully in the next week or 2. Just really a couple of comments on training and development. 2 of our MSc students basically have graduated in environmental health, and which was very positive. They had their graduation ceremony a week or 2 back, and also one of our level 4 apprentices who has gone on to do food safety training actually basically was awarded a learner award basically for returning to learning. So this is somebody who had a previous career that's come into the Public Protection Service with a view to working particularly in the area of commercial, so food and health and safety in due course. Number of other updates on training there. ICT update just very quickly. we are moving now more and more into looking at how basically we use AI and digital. And as I think we've already said, that we will bring forward basically an update and strategy on that to this committee in due course. But areas where we have been looking at it is particularly around legal databases, and also basically in the development, checking of reports and media releases and website content. So very, very sort of positive there. There is an update on the peer review at Appendix D to this report. I won't go into the detail, it's all there, but you can see that the vast majority of the recommendations have either been addressed or partially addressed. The management and information data is there. We continue, just to really pick up a couple of points, we continue to have a very high volume of FOI requests as a service. So in Q2 we had 124 FOIs that took 156 hours to process. So that's a lot of time basically. And there seems to be no sort of let up in that. Also basically a number of member inquiries and inquiries from local MPs. But I have to say, obviously the member inquiries and the information that we get via local MPs are very valuable to the service. They're a very valuable source of intelligence, and I'll come on to that when we talk about other things later on. I won't go into too much detail there. What I would like to do, if I can, is just invite colleagues, George and Rosalind. I don't know which one wants to go first. I think probably your area, George, just to see if there's anything you wish to add to what I've said. Just any headlines that you wish to put in.
Yeah, thanks, Sean. Good evening, everybody. So, yes, some service headlines really around community safety and the living environment, one of those priorities. The team has done a lot of work with mostly vulnerable people and working with adult social care, particularly around supporting mental health work, and that's in particular to hoarding disorder. The report identifies some handling pressures which are being addressed and managed through the team and through colleagues within partnership support. Looking at sort of trading standards work, which is obviously more across the three areas. There's been a lot of work around fraud protection and consumer support and victims of scams. We've looked at almost £1 million recovery or consumer detriment in this last 2 quarters. And we've managed to secure 3 years of funding for the victim support work. Sean will talk more about fraud prevention later. Part of our youth harm reduction work as well is around underage sales and awareness around the risks around smoking and alcohol. We've done a lot of school work this last quarter, and our attitudinal survey has been launched across a number of schools as well. And we'll be looking at having that analysed in December. With regard to the underage sales, there has been a lot of work around knives and also vapes particularly. There has been some concern around the failures that we're getting with the larger stores. So we're coming up with a strategy to deal with that. But for the smaller stores, we're looking at launching in the coming new year a responsible retailer scheme, and again that's across the 3 areas. Finally, with the new apprentices that Sean has just spoken about, we're looking at preparing and conducting visits that will look at premises selling illegal tobacco, and that's working with HMRC and TVP. And then also, as far as food standards is concerned, we've introduced a new model. If you'll recall, it came in this year. The number of interventions has been really high. We're well over 1,000 now, although we got up to 768 at the end of Q2. So we're going at a good pace, and we're also looking at a high number of food standard sampling. What we're revealing from that is a lot of labelling non-compliances, and so officers are speaking to those businesses and supporting and advising as necessary. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you for your report.
Sorry, Rosalind, have you got anything that you
Yes, thanks. Lovely. So my areas cover the priorities of improved living environment, which is mainly housing, protection of the environment with environmental quality, safety in the workplace, which is health and safety enforcement, and safe and healthy food chain with the food hygiene enforcement plan. So in terms of housing, we're continuing a lot of work on HMOs, it's houses to multiple occupation, new and renewal, and also on investigating and identifying and taking action on unlicensed HMOs in the areas as well. So we're continuing to work on that as a priority. This coming quarter will also see us looking at the caravan sites in the area. So we license caravan sites for safety. It's the site rather than the actual caravan. So we look at things like distances and electrical safety. Those are all coming up. There's probably about 30 in the area. So we'll be doing those in the next quarter. Because it's the winter months, damp and cold, service requests have risen sharply in the last weeks. Officers have all had bespoke training as a reminder on how to identify the type of damp in the houses and on rectification of that. So hopefully that will help with the service requests coming in for this month. In environmental quality, we're going to talk about air quality later on, and you've got the air quality update report for 2025 later. Other areas covered are noise investigations from commercial sources in that area. They've done a lot of event monitoring over the summer months with no exceedances, and they've been involved with planning committee work for reduction of notices of nuisances. So health and safety, again, we enforce the Health and Safety at Work Act in commercial workplaces. The main areas that we do with that are reactive, and it's mainly accident investigations. And we've been investigating a couple of major accidents in the workplaces over the last 6 months. So we'll continue with that with the view to decisions whether or not they go formal. Food hygiene inspections. So again, we inspect all of the food inspection or food premises in the areas and rate them from A, which is the highest, which we inspect every 6 months, through to the lowest, which is E, which we inspect every 3 years. We will be inspect around 1,000 of those premises a year. And to date, we are up to date with the A to D. So we're up to date with the higher risk inspections, and we're concentrating on trying to get the rest of the E premises and our unrated premises inspected. We've put in an action plan to the Food Standards Agency, who are our governing body, with a view to showing how we can get those done towards the end of this year and into the first couple of months of next year. And so those are the areas that I cover. Thank you.
Chair, can I just clarify one thing which I think may be helpful for the committee, the difference between food standards and food hygiene. So the food hygiene work is only conducted in basically Bracknell and West Berkshire by the partnership, but the food standards work is covered across all 3 authorities, and that work primarily focuses on descriptions, labelling, quality, contamination claims, and various other elements basically of food, and also elements of food misdescription and food fraud. I just thought that may be helpful for the committee to just clarify that. I think from my point of view, Moira, do you want to say anything about the new the way that the performance data is presented? Because we've done some work since the last committee chair.
So members will have seen that we've distributed the entire list on the Excel spreadsheet that was circulated outside of the meeting. We've identified a small number of indicators which are set out in the agenda, and what we'd really just like to know from members before we start to work on presenting it pictorially, if those are the indicators that members actually would like to see in the reports. And I would also imagine that over time what you want to see would change. So looking at the whole spreadsheet will be useful for members, but we can concentrate on just a few at the meeting as well. The other thing I'd also like to draw attention to is the compliments that are in the report as well, because that's the opportunity to hear for members to hear directly from the voices of the people that we're helping. And some of them, when they come in, I have to say, they bring a tear to my eye. There were some really particularly heartwarming ones that came in over this last quarter.
Thank you for that. First of all, I'd like you to pass on our congratulations to your team who have passed their apprenticeships and the various awards, and thank them for their hard work and diligence. I would like to just almost like raise a question with Wokingham as the new members here. We have an awful lot of KPIs. They mean a lot to certain people, but we need to sort of boil that down to make it, and so it's the important stuff for us. What's important for West Berkshire may not necessarily be the same for Wokingham or indeed Bracknell, but if members could have a look through that and just make sure that we are heading in the direction you wish us to be heading, and that would be really, really quite helpful. Do members have any points you'd like to raise about the style and the presentation of the KPIs to the officers? Thank you. Okay, well, that's wonderful. Everybody's happy. Okay, well, thank you very much for that. That's really helpful. It can take some zipping together, getting three authorities their various KPIs. So if in the future you do feel that you'd like the style or something to be added or indeed deleted or removed, remember, not all the KPIs, because we remove them, will be removed formally. They will be needed for officers' work, but not necessarily for the presentational side of this particular committee. So again, I note this agenda item and thank members. My apologies, Stephen.
Thank you, Chair. I know I'm brand new, so I've been here about half an hour. So my level of knowledge about this is about a fraction of other people's, obviously. What I was noted on was the item in the appendix about kennelling provision. And you might think, why on earth am I zeroing in on that? One of my other roles for working is I represent them on the Thames Valley Police and Crime Panel, and they have a very similar issue with kennelling. And I just wondered whether there is an opportunity, if it's not already been looked at, to sort of try and partner with them, because it's a very similar concern. There might be a way of doing some work that would benefit everybody across the area.
Thank you for that. At that point, I'll invite an officer, Sean.
Yeah, I mean, actually, as the report said, we have a challenge, we have an issue. We recognise that. And in fact, actually, I was talking to the chairman just before the meeting started tonight, and I think basically as we look forward, we need to come forward with some proposals, and I think that's a very good idea, basically for something that we ought to explore, because this isn't an issue just for us; it's an issue now for lots of local authorities going forward. But I think that's a really good idea that we'll ensure that the team explore. Thank you.
Yes, Gunnar.
Thank you, Chair. Just a question leading into the kennelling. So I know obviously we mentioned it in 5.1 under the financing, the pressures, we've got Appendix E attached to it, and then in 10.2 under safer communities. How successful has the current programme been? Chair, thank you.
Sean.
Yeah, I mean, George may wish to come in on this, but we work very, very hard as a service basically to rehome the dogs, and we're very, very successful at doing that. I think that one of the challenges that we've got is that doing that can take some time, and that's where the pressures come in. So the pressures aren't year round. I mean, certainly, basically, we have added pressures in the summer months. And there were times, basically, for example, in the summer months, it doesn't sound like very many, where we had sort of 4 or 5 dogs basically in kennels, and there were delays basically in trying to rehome them simply because we were struggling to find places to rehome them to. But the main priority of the service is to rehome. Of course, the real message here is that you know, from the public point of view, that if you basically ensure that your dogs are identified, that they're properly chipped, that basically they have the proper identification tags on and things like that, that the vast majority of those dogs are returned to their owners basically, you know, straight away after being picked up, or quite often they don't even make it to us because they get taken to vets, as you know, and things like that, and then they're scanned and basically the owners are contacted. So what we're talking about is primarily the dogs where it's difficult to find the owners, or it takes a little while for the owners to come forward. But what I can assure the committee is that the focus is on rehoming, basically in circumstances where the owners can't be traced.
Thank you. Any other points? No? Okay, well, thank you for explaining those points. And the officers will go away and raise these issues with the kennelling, and if you have any particular points you'd like to bring to the attention to our officers, please contact them and have a chat, and perhaps we could contact the appropriate person rather than running through various channels. Steve.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Yeah, I've certainly got some contacts I can pass over, so maybe we can chat after the meeting and just exchange details. Thank you.
Absolutely fantastic. Again, this evening, this is a to note item. It does go to our exec as well, and I'd like to thank the officers for this report. It's really helpful. I know we only meet every 3 or 4 months, that sort of stuff, but it does give us a clear picture of what we're doing across all the authorities. And while it might seem a bit unusual that West Berkshire are interested in what's happening in Wokingham, and sometimes a bit unusual for Bracknell, but actually it does we all have similar tensions and pressures. The numbers may be slightly different, but the tensions are still there. Okay, well, thank you for that, and I will ask members to note that item. Moving on to the air quality item number 9. I believe we have an officer who'd like to speak on that one.
Yes, Chair, that's me. Unfortunately, Suzanne can't be with us this evening, so I'm going to talk on the air quality report. So basically, we've got in the report a comprehensive summary of the air quality across the 3 areas. The main takeaway from the information that we've published is the success in reducing the levels of air pollutant in all 3 areas over the last number of years. We've gone from 6 air quality management areas to 2, and we now have permission from DEFRA to revoke one of those, subject to consultation, which again is in the air quality update. So the annual air quality reports for the 3 local authorities are submitted by PPP, where we submit them earlier in the year to DEFRA. The DEFRA responses where they've come back have been attached, and they're all positive responses. The aims of our reports are basically to show the progress in achieving reductions in the emission of relevant pollutants to below air quality objective levels. So if we turn to the Bracknell, so Bracknell still have 1 air quality management area. It's the Crowthorne. Major sources of the pollutants in the 3 areas would be nitrogen dioxide and particulates, mostly from road traffic. But we've seen that the levels have been decreasing in the trend since about 2018, and there's been no exceedances of the objective levels. The air quality action plan that's produced for each of the areas, for example, the air quality action plan for Bracknell has been recently renewed. It's now a 2024 to 29 plan, and they hold the local measures to improve pollution levels. So, for example, we work with the highways teams, with planning, with different departments in the councils to look at different ways of achieving reduced emissions. So it'd be things like smoothing out traffic flows, upgrading speed bumps so that cars don't stop and start so much, expansion of electric vehicles. Based on the evidence for Bracknell, DEFRA have said that it's justified to have a revocation of the Crowthorne air quality management area, as we've had compliances over the last 3 years. They have a set criteria as to when a revocation can take place. Appendix G of the report shows the process for revocation, and that starts in line with the Environment Act, with consultation. So that's what we are asking, that we go now and we consult on the revocation of that air quality management area for Crowthorne. If we do the consultation, we are coming back to JPPC in March with the results of that, and then we can see whether you vote to pass that or not. A little bit about West Berkshire then. So West Berkshire had 2 air quality management areas, both were revoked last year. There's a list of actions that we're taking in West Berkshire again. It's work with planning, work with car clubs, cycle, increasing cycling. In Wokingham, the continuous monitor for nitrogen dioxide is still in Wokingham Town Centre. And it showed no exceedances over the air quality objective. The Twyford air quality management area was revoked in 2025. So that's mainly what we have with the reports. And as I say, there's quite a comprehensive report. I think there's 3 papers there showing what's happened over the year and a little bit about where we were with the government grant that we got in 2023-24. Thank you.
Thank you for your report. Do members have any questions?
Yes, Chair. I did notice in the report there were some challenges, and I think the one that stuck out for me the biggest was there was the insufficient funding for the broader behavioural campaign, and the school participation in interventions was poor despite advance notice. So is there anything that we can do as a committee to kind of assist with that in the future?
Thank you for that. Which one of the officers would like to address that? If there's no one available to, what I can do is I will ask one of the officers to get back to you, and we'll circulate the answer to all members, both online and present here this evening. Okay?
Thank you, Chair.
You are welcome. Do we have any other questions or points? We have a hand raised. Thank you. Hi.
Yeah, more than one hand actually. But apologies, Chair. I haven't been able to get access to the complete agenda pack, so I missed the question I wanted to ask. Was actually for the previous agenda item. It's very quick question. I think Rosalind might be able to answer it, and it was regarding the funding for mould that was put forward by, I think, West Berks, and whether we were successful in getting that and what the implications were.
I'm sure we could answer that question for you.
Sorry for missing my right cue. So.
That's fine. Yes, so we did put for the public health grant for damp and mold project. And the damp and mold project was basically to, I suppose, reverse engineer the way that people get damp and mold help from us by going to primary care trusts. So that would be doctor surgeries and other primary care, and actually getting the referrals from them into us rather than the resident coming to us. Residents obviously can still come to us directly, and many do, but this was just to see whether we could get more people to come to us. And it would be basically if they went to the doctor suffering from a health, either physical or mental health effects, where it could be traced back to damp and mold. That would be things like asthma and dermatitis. Now we were successful getting that grant. So we've got that grant. So now we're working on how best to engage with the primary healthcare trusts. So the public health team in West Berkshire are working with us to see how best to engage with them and get the most out of that. Part of the damp and mold training that we had was part of that grant funding. And we're looking at what equipment we can buy in to help us look at where the damp and mold is and how to help people. So we've been doing a lot of work on the preparation for this. And the next stage is really seeing whether we can get As I say, because winter's sort of started already, whether we can get anything done in this year or whether we actually push forward to get it done for next, to get the, I suppose, the engagement of the primary care for next winter. But we're working on it at the minute.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you for your question. Yes, Nick.
So moving on to the air quality. So I'm glad that Crowthorne's having its monitoring suspended or withdrawn. Can you just confirm what happens in each of the areas, after it's been withdrawn? What happens in terms of ongoing monitoring in each of the boroughs? In terms of the general maintenance, is it a case of we wait until we find out there's a poor area and then slap a new monitoring schedule in there?
Thank you for your question.
So in fact, there's two types of air quality monitoring that we do in all of the districts. So it's not just where there is a management area. So in the management areas, we have continuous monitors running, and that's what the revocation will take away. So we won't need to have the continuous monitors. But across the districts, we have a number of sites, probably about 40 in each of the three areas, where we have diffusion tubes. So those are basically tubes that are continually working to gather the air, to run air through them. We collect those each month and they get sent off for testing. And we use that information to show what the air quality is like. So we keep doing that. So whatever happens with the revocation, we always have our diffusion tubes running. So there's always air quality being monitored in the areas.
And that would allow us to react quicker should we feel the need to. But thank you. Is there any other questions members would like to ask on that? Okay. My suggestion is that we note 2.1, 2.2 and 2.4. We just note that because we don't need to actually vote on it. But if members are happy that we vote on 2.3 and 2.5 collectively, and or we can have individual votes, it's up to members, but I think for times there's not a lot of difference between the two. So my suggestion is we do that collectively, and I'll pass over to the officer.
Okay, thank you. So can I get a formal proposer for that? Would that be...
You're absolutely correct, and I propose...
Councillor Jeffries to second.
Okay, thank you. Okay, 2.1, 2.2 and 2.4 are to note only. So the recommendations on which to vote are to note, to approve, by beg your pardon, the consultation be undertaken for the potential revocation of the Bracknell Forest Council Crowthorne Air Quality Management Area in accordance with the recommendations from DEFRA, which is in your Appendix G, and to approve the ongoing and planned future measures to improve air quality set out in each report. Members, please show in favour of that, those recommendations. Thank you. That's unanimous. Thank you very much.
And thank you. And thank members. Moving on to item number 10, pages 123 to 139 in your agenda. I believe it's over to you again, Sean.
Thank you, Chair. So this is an annual report that we bring back around the subject of fraud and unfair trading, I suppose, in its sort of broader sense. So the report basically sets out, I suppose, really the approach that we take as a service on behalf of the authorities, which really is an approach that's built around preventative actions, the building of an intelligence picture, and of course basically ultimately enforcement actions. And there's a number of those enforcement actions that are described in the report. I think basically, I mean, it's undoubtable that fraud is one of the issues of our time. There's probably not very many people around this table that don't know somebody basically that hasn't been a victim of some form of fraud or scam or some online phishing, scam. I mean, I think probably, I think even myself, I've fallen for one or two of these things in the past in terms of, and then realised very, very quickly. But they're very, very easy to do. Basically, when people have got busy lives and they're bombarded with this information. Also, basically, so that's kind of one end of it. At the other end of it, basically, there is, I suppose, the type of fraud that is seen as very kind of insidious, and this is the sort of doorstep crime-related matters where basically people can end up losing thousands, tens of thousands, or in some cases, basically even hundreds of thousands of pounds. And every year, basically, we have a number of investigations into those types of matters as well. We do work very, very closely with the community safety teams in each of the three councils, and I'm pleased to say as a result of working with the teams that we actually have a sort of prevention officer which has been funded by grants from the Police and Crime Commissioner, for whom fraud is a priority area. So each of the three authorities basically have contributed to that, basically from their grant fund, and we have somebody in place basically for the next 2 years at least, but we have an additional year of funding which we can use also. We also basically work very, very closely with partners, in particular Thames Valley Police and also the regional organised crime unit, because as the name suggests, basically a lot of this is organised crime. Now, there are some figures basically in the report that talk about the types of money that are involved. So I think at 4.41, I noticed there's a couple of bits of data missing there. But at the time that we wrote this report, which is the end of October, the identified loss to residents across the three authorities was in the order of £957,000 just in that period, basically from the 1st of April. Now, obviously, that is also basically, I suppose, to some extent the tip of the iceberg, because many of the people that we're investigating obviously commit crimes and potential offences outside of the three authority area as well. So you can add to that basically potentially the losses of a number of other victims which are outside of the area that we enforce, the area that basically we administratively cover. Obviously, where we have these larger investigations which takes us outside of the area, we do tend to seek grant funding and support from National Trading Standards Board, from the Regional Trading Standards Body, basically to conduct those investigations, and also support for legal fees as well. So, and that's one of the benefits, I think, really of being a shared service, is that we're able to do that and to take on some of those more complicated fraud matters with some very successful results. And there are a couple of mentions in the report, basically in this particular report, of cases of that nature, not least of which was an advance fee fraud that we dealt with recently. We had a long trial at Reading Crown Court, and basically that resulted in a 4.5-year immediate custodial sentence for the main perpetrator. Basically, it was an advance fee fraud relating to lettings, which is obviously a topical area as well at the moment. So we continue to investigate them. We have, I think, probably a very, very good setup for doing this. We have very specialist investigators. They're supported by specialist financial investigators. These are officers authorised by the National Crime Agency to look at money laundering and also to deal with the recovery of losses where we can. So there is a big focus, basically, once we've managed to achieve convictions, to try and recover asset, basically, from the perpetrator and pay that back to the victims. And we've done that very, very successfully on many, many occasions. And we have a number of those matters going through the court now, and including on the recent case that I've just mentioned. But also the team is supported by the case management unit, and we have a small but functional, basically, intelligence function as well, which helps us to build up the picture, basically, of the pattern of offending, the modus operandi, and everything else that goes with that. So just to sum up, I think this is a very positive report. I think the approach that we take, which is to try and get preventative advice out there, everything from talking to groups through to media statements, and you'll see in the report that we've done a number of items on television this year as well, basically, including a feature where we had a camera crew follow the team around for a few days, basically to make a report on the work of the team. But I think this is a very positive report, basically, that talks about dealing with a very difficult problem, a very harmful problem, and you can see there are quotes in there basically from people who've been victims, or there is at least one quote in this report from people who've been victims. But it's a very harmful problem to those basically that are the victims of this type of action. I'm very happy to answer any questions.
Sorry, yes, questions.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, it was really sad to read the note in 4.11, the extract from one of the victims, and really sad. But that is the truth of the matter, and these things do happen. In 4.12, I know we mentioned our collaboration with Thames Valley Police, South East Regional Organised Crime Unit, and the HMRC. We've got a little note in there that says officers will continue to seek grant funding to support levels 2 and 3. So my question again is pretty in line with the last one, is what can we do as a committee to help get funding? Is there anything we need to do? Is there any people we can help? Because obviously Christmas is upon us, and we know fraud and crime is definitely going to go up. And it would be nice to have a little bit more funding as well towards communications campaigns. I mean, the footfall in the lexicon, speaking on behalf of Bracknell Forest, is very high in the month of December. And it would be nice probably to see some posters up or see something up just reminding people to be a little bit more careful and smarter, not just in person but also online. And so, yeah, sorry for the long question, Chair, but that's my ask. Thank you.
Not a problem. Your questions are always welcome, Sean.
No, thank you for that. First thing I would say is that we are very, very well supported by all three authorities, and we have been basically for many years. We work with fabulous community safety teams, basically, which provide us with support, and over the years have provided us with funding, basically, to take forward the type of ideas that you've talked about. And in terms of awareness raising and everything else, the idea that in fact you've just come forward about basically raising awareness within shopping areas and things like that, basically that's certainly something I'll take away and have a discussion with the team about tomorrow. But you know, we're very keen really to get out there into the community. I think this is where we get our intelligence. This is where we get the information that we need. And without the public and without the information that we get from members encouraging the public to come forward, and from members directly, where they've identified you know, residents that may have been victims and things like this, basically we haven't really got anything to go with. So unusually, basically lots of services basically are now looking to help people to help themselves. What we're saying to residents is come to us, talk to us. It's really important, basically, because we can't move forward and we can't deal with these things without your support. And on that note, I would just really like to just acknowledge the role that residents play. You know, to come forward, basically to provide witness statements for us, basically to give evidence in court. Basically, these are really important things, and I just really want to pay my respects to residents that basically do support these investigations.
Thank you. Does that answer your question?
It does indeed, Chairman. And also, just to reiterate on Sean's point, it does help as well with all the investigations with members of the community willing to come forward. It really does help us ensure they get the prosecutions that are needed to ensure these individuals don't do it again.
Thank you for that. And as far as the distribution of our fraud and scam charter as such, I assume it's will be available on our local authority websites. Could I ask that members, certainly of West Berkshire, I'm pretty sure members of Wokingham and Bracknell, it would do no harm to circulate it to them digitally at least. So, because sometimes councillors do get a phone call to say that it's oh, what do I do? So that could be another thing. And of course, libraries and library hubs and things like that. Those seem the ideal type of locations where we can raise the profile. Do you have any points to that one, Sean?
No, absolutely. I mean, it's an indication of the commitment of the authorities of this committee, basically, to tackling this. We need to get that information out as far and wide as possible. I'll also pick that up, Chairman.
Thank you. Yes, Stephen.
Thank you, Chairman. Firstly, very good report, and credit to the team for the work they're doing. My suspicion with this is that despite all of the good activity you're doing, it's probably going very underreported. And I think that's the barrier, and you've both been talking about that in terms of communication and engagement, and I think that's important, because often it's the most vulnerable in our society who get caught because they're on their own, they may be a little bit older or whatever, and they often feel really foolish and don't want to come forward because they feel embarrassed. So I think we might want to think about how we can try and get the message out there that actually, and I'm thinking about this for myself in terms of what can I do through residents associations and where we've got daycare centres, all that kind of stuff where people meet, to try and get the message out there that actually you're doing the public a service by coming forward, because actually you can help protect other people as well as hopefully getting some recovery for yourself. So I think it's trying to change the message to become a local hero to come and report it, rather than being a victim. But maybe we can, I can talk again with people offline about that sort of thing and see if we can try and start some stuff up. And if we get success from that, then we might look at how we can roll it out in wider areas, because we don't want to do a big launch and find it doesn't do anything. But if we can prove a concept that works in a small area, then that might be a way forward. But I just want to, again, pay tribute for the report, very good report, and credit to the team for what you're doing. Thank you.
Well, thank you for that. Is there anything further you'd like to add there, Sean?
Just say thank you, and I very much welcome that conversation. I mean, just to add that it's difficult to underestimate the impact that some of this has on people's lives. We're talking about the difference between people perhaps being able to live in their own homes on an ongoing basis or not. It can be that impactful. We do a lot of work. We understand that it's very, very much underreported, particularly by the victims themselves. So we do a lot of work to encourage families to come forward, friends as well, and also neighbours. And we also do work basically to try and get the message out there for other people working in the communities. So, for example, for many years now, we've had input into every single PCSO training course at Sulhamstead, probably going back sort of 10, 15 years, basically, where we've gone through basically the things that we would like them to look out for, basically, when they're out on neighbourhood patrols and things like that. But yeah, very, very much welcome a conversation, Councillor Newton.
Thank you, members. Nick.
Thank you, Chair. On 4.40, I may have missed it in your talk earlier. It's on page 132. It mentions XXXXX cases. Given that this is a published paper, will this ever get updated? And how many cases were there?
Chairman, I'm happy to answer that. We can get the report updated for you. The details are set out in paragraph 19.4 of the Core 2 report, so unfortunately we didn't transfer the information across, but we can do that and we'll get that done tomorrow.
Okay, thank you. Is there also TBAs under 4.4? Is that those numbers also in there?
Yeah.
Thank you.
And thank you for your question. Okay. Again, I'm going to suggest 2.1 is we have been informed, first of all, and that we would vote to approve too. So I will formally propose that action, and I'm looking for a seconder. Who's got the swifted hands? Howard. Okay.
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, so as proposal and secondary received for the committee to approve the approach that's being taken to tackle fraud, unfair trading and financial abuse. So if all members can show in favour of those recommendations, please. Thank you very much. Yeah, that's carried.
Thank you very much for that. Moving on to item 11, and Greg Lawrence, I believe, is going to. Thank you.
Hi, thanks, Chair. So you already have heard the good news about officers.
Greg, we can't hear you very well.
Ah, is that better?
George, sorry.
Is that all right? Is that better?
A little bit louder would be helpful, thank you.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
A bit more. Can you lean forward or something like that? I don't know.
Yeah. Let me see. How's that?
Thank you.
Is that better?
It's a bit better, yeah, cheers.
Okay. Yeah, so you would have heard the good news that Sean has already announced around the officers qualifying in certain areas. What this workforce strategy aims to achieve is to continue with that grow your own approach and looking at our previous strategy and seeing where we could have make improvements. And this is for the next 3 years. So as members may be aware, I mean, the PPP has almost 100 officers across the areas of trading standards, environmental health, licensing and support services. And obviously that with such a diverse workforce, there are going to be individual needs and a formal requirement to plan. And I'm sure, as Moira will probably advise on, planning, training and getting officers to have a work plan, having in place a sort of development plan does take time, effort, and this goes across the officers through to all management at all levels. So really what we want to do is recognise the strategy aims to recognise the workforce and emphasise the need to have structured training and development, all of which is supported by the development plan. In practical terms, what this is looking at is, building on aspirations during appraisals and during one-to-ones, having those aspirations documented, and then balancing them up with the service needs, ensuring that we deliver on the priorities. And as Roslyn's always mentioned before, priorities and practical things change. So, like for example, the mould program that requires training, so that has to all be put in place. So again, what this is trying to achieve is to understand that there is a formal need, and that also there is a difference in different officers and different needs, and making sure that we have the resources in place to do all of that. And one of the things that the peer review identified that it could be improved upon was its succession planning, and particularly at the more managerial level. So what we've included within that strategy is a sort of note that we have to do better around getting officers to want to move up into management, and we're doing that through providing additional formal learning, and also introducing mentoring plans, so that supports the apprentices as well as giving the officers who are doing the mentoring that element of experience around managing people and managing people's needs. This has been long standing, as I say. I mean, we've been doing this ever since PPP has been in existence, but we are starting to see the fruits of that labour, and particularly around apprenticeships and the grow your own approach. And as Sean has already mentioned, we've got 2 environmental health officers that have passed their masters. We've got a food safety officer who's now qualified. We haven't in the order of around 6 trading standards apprenticeships coming through, and we're also looking to the future for additional apprenticeships. So happy to take any questions on either this or the plan.
Thank you for your report. Do members have any questions? Stephen.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I was really pleased to see this. I think it's very encouraging when you've got a strategy and also a development plan. So that's really good. One thing I've wondered about, you may have this and just didn't share it with us, was have you got any sort of deliverables in terms of dates and targets? Because what I was thinking is that we don't want to get to the end of the 3-4 year period and then find we've missed it. Or we try and post-rationalise what's happened and call that success. So I'm just wondering if there's a way of actually trying to put in some milestones. It's not to try and hang somebody from it and say, well, no, you've failed, but at least if you've got a target, you're working towards something more specific than in 3 or 4 years' time we're hoping to achieve this. And then you can monitor how you're getting on, see what's working, see what's less successful, and maybe change it. But also I'm thinking this is really important for us in terms of, because this is going to be what delivers the service. Without this working, it's not going to happen as much. So I'm wondering if it might be possible, it may already be on your forward plan, but maybe to have sort of annual updates, not necessarily a full report, but just against those milestone targets. How's it going? Are you ahead? Are you behind in certain areas? And also, what's that achieved through that recruitment, through that development? Are there things that we can now do differently, better, and have got better outcomes? So I'm just trying to see how it hangs together, really, if that's okay.
That's exactly the sort of questions we're looking to raise at these sort of meetings. So I'll pass this one to Sean and maybe even April if they need any input.
Thank you for the question. Yeah, I mean, it's a really important point. I mean, there is a plan, and in fact, actually, we perhaps could have articulated that in the wider strategy. I mean, we basically know that we can't recruit qualified staff, and that's where we're at. We have a sort of in mind a sort of indication as to what the sort of rate of attrition will be over a period of time, and we know that basically over X period of time, basically that we should see Y number of people qualified into those roles, and that's where we are. And I think actually, Chair, we do bring an annual report to the committee. Basically, the next one I think will be June, won't it, Moira? At the June meeting, basically, which will be the 25-26 annual report, and I will make a note of that, and we'll put an update on basically where we are in terms of that plan. But maybe at the next meeting, Moira, we could just put an appendix to the Q3 report that just sets out the timescales for bringing those people through. But yes, there is a plan basically in terms of timescales. Thank you.
Thank you. April, do you have anything you'd like to add to that, or?
No, nothing else. I think Sean's covered that all really well. Thank you. But I think it's a really good point, and I think it's really important that we do keep you updated with progress on that, because it's key to successful running of the service.
Absolutely, Stephen.
Yeah, thank you. That's really good. And I suspect you had, it just wasn't with us, but that's good. So thank you for that. Just again, crossing over to my involvement in the Thames Valley Police, one of the problems we have there is we started this sort of programme only for the Met to then start nicking the people we were training. So I just want to raise that as an issue and a concern, because what you don't want to be doing is investing all this time and effort, and then other councils are saying, well, that's great, I'm going to offer them a couple £100 more, and they'll come across. So I think then you may want to think about within the pay structures and stuff, if it's allowable, not to put handcuffs on people, but how to actually provide them an incentive where, having invested in them, we then get a period of return out of them, rather than they just see that as a way of going for the next management post in another council, which is also desperate to get staff, but isn't taking the time and effort to do the training and stuff that you're planning to do.
From my perspective, it's definitely something that the officers are alive to. We have some restrictions that we can't tie apprenticeships legislatively, but there are things we can do, and one of the best things, other than money, is actually as a rise through the structure, because sometimes people feel that they can't get through, so they have to go away to move up. So that's part of the mechanisms. But I'll please, Sean, if you'd like to.
Just very quickly on that point, and I think actually that is really important. And as Councillor McCann said, obviously we can't tie people in on apprenticeships because that's part of the rules of the system. But we do basically where we fund other types of training, basically where there is any expense to that. But in truth, that's not why we want people to stay. We want people to stay because we want them to be here. And I think basically the situation is that this is one of the real benefits of shared services. The ability basically to have the critical mass to provide the training, to provide the opportunities, to provide the support with expertise and specialist officers and everything else. And I'm pleased to say that by and large, basically, we have a very, very good retention rate, basically, of officers that qualify within the service. And if I look around the service, basically, and I've been around for many years, basically, a lot of the officers we've got in the service, basically, you know, that I see, we've got, you know, training standards officers that came to us as admin support staff and have worked all the way through all of their professional training. We've got a number of people like that came in as basically technical officers, assistants, and are now fully qualified and, you know, holding chartered status and all of that kind of stuff. So I'm, you know, we're very proud of this, and but I am pleased to report that by and large, the vast majority of the people that we trained are still with us.
Thank you for your question. And George, thank you for your report. I'll propose from the chair that we go to item 2, 3 and 2, 4, and I need a seconder for that. Well done, Lou. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, members. Yes, so there are two recommendations for this report. Firstly, to approve the 2026 to 2029 workforce planning strategy, and also to approve the 2026 to 2029 training and development plan. So again, can members vote in favour of those recommendations, please? Thank you. And unanimous once again. Thank you.
Thank you, members. Before we finish this evening, the next item for our meeting will be in March the 9th-ish. It is likely to be in Woking, but that's to be confirmed. Members will circulate the date and the location as soon as we're aware, so we can all zip them into our diaries. And other than that, I'd like to thank everyone who joined us this evening online. I'd like to thank members and officers for their input this evening, and I look forward to meeting again in March. So thank you very much, everyone, this evening, and I declare the meeting closed. Thank you. Sign it, Jenna.